Hello and welcome. So this is Chaos Corvinus. This time I'm going to look at the Reallusion product suite, which includes iClone, Character Creator, and 3D Exchange as the main products. I'll be using iClone 7.93, Character Creator 3.44, and 3D Exchange version 7.81. That is the products I'll be using. All of these are pipeline apart from the iClone 7, which is the base product. Just to let you know, if you're not already aware or you're not seeing the news I've put onto the minds.com, iClone is going to release a new version this month, very soon. It could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be right now, it could be next week, but it'll be sometime in May. The date is not been verified exactly what date it's going to be just yet, but it's going to be sometime this month, and it's going to be both iClone 8 and Character Creator 4. So they're both going to get new versions this month. I'm very excited to see that. And hello, this is Chaos Corvinus from the future. This is a video. I last seen it on the 15th of May, and it's officially been released. Character Creator 4 and iClone 8 are both out, and here it is on the website. So when you go onto the Reallusion website now, so when you go onto the Reallusion website, you will see the announcement of iClone 8 on the main screen. When you go into the stores and software store, there's been a few changes on here, and you will see iClone 8 and Character Creator 4 both being shown on here as well. So they're both out now. I wasn't able to publish this video before that, and if you ever look, the prices of the bundles are also different as well. So just bear that in mind. They've updated the website as well with changes in products. And that's about it, just an update video. Thank you for that. Use that when it does come into play, but for the purpose of this video, iClone 7 will be more than sufficient until Character Creator 3. They're very powerful in themselves, and they should get the job done, most things. But obviously, if you are interested in using this suite, I would tell you to straight away have a look on the website. It's reallusion.com. We'll advertise all the products on there. And again, if you look at our Minds channel on minds.com, you will see that information as well. I will try to put the link on after this video as well on the notes, and leave the link on my Minds channel if you want to see that. I do have the articles of how to get it running, system requirements, and much more information if you are interested in any of that information. But anyway, let's get cracking on this video now. This is Character Creator 3, so again, it's not going to be a how-to video. I'm just going to quickly run you through some of the features that I've discovered myself in these suites. Right, so back onto Character Creator 3 now. The first thing you want to do is obviously get this character fully clothed up, so I'm just going to get that done right now for you. Let's just move it down there for now. Right, and we're going to go into the clothing section whilst I do this. So that's the cloth. I'm just going to put on some clothes on here now. So I'm just going to put on some shirts. And very quickly the same for the pants as well. Just put on some, right? And that should be now fully clothed up. Yep, that will do. Right, so now once you've got the character inside of iClone, Character Creator in this case, what you want to be doing is you want to be manipulating the quality of the assets that are being used. That's the very first thing you should be really looking into. Now, the way of doing that is just by going into this, not this one, sorry, this one here. It's the modification tab for the appearance. So that's for the appearance, and make sure you go into outfits. And then all you want to do then is make sure you select the item of clothing you have and go into Activate Appearance Editor. So we're into the Appearance Editor now. When you click on jeans now, you'll see a further arrow appear for jeans. Click into that, and then you will see options here to change the output size. Now the output size is the actual texture quality. So I'm going to ramp it up all the way to 2K textures. 2048 by 2048 resolution is a 2K quality asset material. So the jeans now are 2K quality. Now, The thing to remember about clothing is they'll never be 4K quality, and the highest you're ever going to really get is going to be most likely 2K quality. So when you put the clothing on, you can customize it and make sure you increase the quality of the output texture as well. Another thing to do with this is to, when you finish with the appearance editor, click on unload. Now you have to do this every single time, so if you're going to change between these settings, you have to unload and then go into the setting and then load and unload again, depending on what you want to tweak. Now if you want to tweak the character skin, unfortunately this is going to get rid of the clothing on the characters. I'm going to bring it down. So when you go into the skin, you will have direct control of the character's appearance of their skin quality. And this is their UV mapping for their head, their body, their skin, their nails, their toes, all the parts of the human body you can control, and you can have a higher quality texture of each of these controlled within the modification tab for the appearance and skin tools. So once you do this, it will go into the skin gen settings. So obviously you need to have skin gen installed as a plugin to be able to manipulate these settings. And as long as you have skin gen installed, which is a plugin for iClone, a character creator, then you can be able to use these settings and you can manipulate it to increase the higher quality textures. Now as you can see, the head, so basically these are the textures, so the material is what the textures are being applied for the maps. So we've got the head texture map, we've got the body texture map, we've got the arm texture map, the leg texture map, and the nails texture map. All of these are different UVs created inside a character creator, and you can further manipulate these in the software, which I will show you later on as well. But for now, let's just go into this, and if you want a head, you can change the output quality size of this again into a higher quality. At the moment it's only 2K, but you can make that into a 4K skin texture for the head, which is 4096 by 4096, so make sure you do that to give the highest quality output for the character. And it will then change the head settings, so just bear with us whilst it does that. Okay, so that looks like the head's done now. Then we'll do a similar thing for the body. Again, make sure the texture quality is 4K, like crashed. I'm just going to update that to the 4K textures. At the moment, Character Creator 3 seems to be a bit glitchy on my laptop. So hopefully it won't glitch again. Let's just see what we can do. Right, so I've updated that for the 4K textures. I'm just going to save this project in case it does crash for any reason. So yes, it did actually crash the computer again, so I'm just going to skip the body for now. And if you go into ARM, and you go into the textures again, so 4K by 4K textures. Again, let's try out the leg again. So leg, and make sure it's a 4K texture. Right, it's the leg done. I'm just going to put it down to 2K for now, because I think it's one of the reasons why it's crashing so much. It's changing over. Then I'm going to go into the nails. And I'm going to change that to 4K texture, so 4096 by 4096. You do have to bear in mind Skin Gen is a very powerful processing task, so that would be maybe why it's crashing it so much. Obviously on this laptop it may look like I might push it back down to 2K for now, and then change the body parts separately and then upgrade them bit by bit. I'm just showing you a demonstration how it's done for now. Obviously on a more powerful PC you want to make sure the settings to texture quality are always 4K though. So bear with me. Right, so let's back to 2K, so I'm just going to go back onto the body now. Right, just make it 4K again. So this is just one way you can work around it if you're on the top of the PC. Doesn't seem to be handling the task very well. In my case, it does crash a lot within this task. So. Right, so that's now 4K textures. I'm going to put it back down to 2K because otherwise it's going to crash. Don't really happening again. So put it down to 2K again. And that's basically how you do it. So you just go across all of these settings here, head, body, skin, nails, and make sure that all the texture quality is 4K. And if you can achieve that, that's job done. And that's all you need to do with these settings here. Just do the head again, so then I'll go out of these settings and make sure to put back to 2K. Just for this purposes of this videos, because it seems to be handling 4K quality very well on this particular the laptop. So just bear with me. Right, so now I'm just going to put it back down to 2K to stop any further crashes, and then I'm going to go out to this editor and load it back. And once you're happy with all the settings for the skin, you can then just unclick the editor setting, and then if you want to go into further settings, you can also change the makeup as well, while showing here, because the skin and the makeup are both done with a similar editor preferences. So let's just go to the makeup settings. Right, and in the makeup again, got settings for head and eyelash in this case. So again, for the head, for the makeup, you can go for 2K, or if you want to, you can go for 4K. Let me just show you what happens again. So when you go into 4K again, 4096 by 4096. Again, this laptop might crash if I keep it in that, so I'll just quickly show you what, I can't really show you the output at the moment. I'm just quickly showing what to do with these settings. So now that's 4K quality. And let's just put it back down to 2K quality just for now. Okay, and then if we go into the eyelash again, similar kind of thing. You can do 4K and 2K. Let's just put it into 4K, and that initializes the 4K texture model for that particular part of the body again. Perfect, so that's all working as expected. So I'm just going to put it back down to 2K again to avoid any crashes or anything like that, and just make sure it's on the skin setting. Not that it really matters, the skin and the makeup is the same menu anyway, so I'm just going to put it back on the skin for now though. And then just click on Activate Editor, and it will untick everything and bake all the settings back onto the character that you've done. I've not really saved anything, I've reset it back to 2K, so it should be relatively quick this. And there we go, we're back on now. And as you can see, the clothing has been put back onto the character as well, so that's absolutely perfect. Right, so now let's just zoom in a bit onto our actual character itself, just to see what kind of character we're creating. So as you can see, we've put the skin settings back down to 2K. The quality of the 2K just by itself, see, is quite high. So yes, that's just 2K quality though. It's far higher, I think, than the DAZ Studio. It's really, really high quality, that model now. Right, so that's a 2K model created by Character 3. Now, when you've got this clothing and the setup and everything, then you can start to manipulate the actual character settings. What we're going to do first is there's a lot of settings here we can do. We're firstly going to look at the material settings here, which is probably one of the more difficult settings to fiddle around with, because you've got maps and everything associated with them all. So if you look here, it's a lot of settings that you can do here. Now what you'll notice here is you've got the material name, and this is things like head, body, arm, leg, nails, eyelash, etc., etc. These are all the different parts of the body. Right, so now I think that's actually all the textures actually put onto the character. I thought there was a special individual selection for them, but I don't think there actually is. It looks like it's put all the settings of every part of the body onto the texture maps for us already, because we have already selected the actor. So as long as we select the actor and the body, it shows you all the different parts. If you don't do that, it will only show you, well, in this case, the head. If I go into the clothing, then it will show you the clothing textures. And there we go. You can see it changes the textures depending on what you select. So that's the underwear. It's the shirts. See, it's like the shirt there on the materials. So in the materials tab here, which looks like tiles, that basically gives you control over what you've actually selected. So if you select the clothing, it gives you unique control over the clothing itself. Different parts of the clothing, if you selected the body of the character, whichever part of the body you select, it just selects all of the body. So you don't have to go into each different part or anything like that. Then you just go into the materials tab, sorry, not that, the materials tab, and then from here you can just have control over all the textures. And here you've got the body. So then again you've got the head, and you've got the body, and you've got the arm and the leg. If you remember, when we were doing the body textures, we had the head, the body, the arm, leg, nails, eyelashes. And they're all part of the body texture, and you can see they're all part of it here as well. We've got different textures here as well, but if you just look at them all and see what we're getting at here. So we've got the body, so this is just for the head. So if you want to change the head settings, you can do it there. If you want to change the body settings, you can do it there. If you want to change just the arm settings or the leg settings, you can do it there. Nails and eyelashes there. So say if you want to change something like the skin colour or the tone of the actual face itself, all you do is you go into the body and make sure the head is selected, and on the textures here, it will show you shader type. So just below this material list, show you texture settings, and it will show you shader type. It says digital human head. You can change that. I will keep it on that just for now. But it's probably better if you use PBR, which is physical based rendering, similar as in DAZ Studio, or traditional. I'm going to keep it on digital human head for now though. Okay, and I'm going to keep it on the base color. So if I just double click on these settings, by the way, you can decide which file to put into that. So if you want to put in your own texture map for the base color, you could even do that. If you want to select what's already there, just right click on it. Right, and you can adjust the color of it. So adjust the color of it, sorry. And this is a unique feature in Character Creator. You can't do this in DAZ Studio so much. You can actually control quite complicated settings of the actual texture in here. So, for example, you can change the brightness. So you can very easily get a nice skin color here without having to do anything else. And if you do that with everything else with the body, we'll show you in a minute. This is the head, obviously. But that's -20 there. So let me just copy that number. The future, -20, right? That's for the brightness. I'm not going to change the hue and saturation. As you can see, you've got a nice colour there, which is actually rather natural. It's much better than what DAZ Studio was doing. It's actually changing the brightness, but it's actually changing it in a better way. The control here of the sliders is actually very powerful. You get a much better control of what you're doing here. So if we go into -20, you get nice natural skin colour there. And if you wanted to get more, you could control the contrast of it to get like a more in-depth skin colour, and you can really have nice skin colour here. And you can do the hue as well if you wanted to mess around with that. And the saturation, very powerful settings here, just for changing the skin colour and complexity of the character. I'm not sure what the softness setting really does, but it looks like as you increase it, it does actually make the character look a bit more less detailed, I suppose. It looks more like a child, I suppose. And as you decrease the softness, you can see the details in the character a lot more. So that's probably what the softness does, get the detail of the character. So if you don't want so much of the detail of the character on them, you can change it to 10, and that makes them look really more like a child in terms of the skin complexion. But we want it to be as rough as possible, so 0, to make it like an adult here, so that's absolutely fine. Right, so that's fine in terms of them settings, and if you're happy with that, you can cross that out. Now that's just changing one map in Character Creator. If you are good at changing maps and you're good at artistic at using texture maps, you can go ahead and change the bump map. There's a lot of settings here, unlike DAZ Studio. You can do the AO map, which is the ambient occlusion map, if I remember rightly. Then there's the metallic map, then there's the opacity map, the roughness map, the displacement map, the glow, and the blend map. These are all complicated settings. I'm not going to really look into these settings too much, but if you know what you're doing, you can control each of these settings, by the way, by going into each of these settings and controlling it further in here. So you can even change the bump map if you wanted to. And you could really go crazy with this, as you can see. Really complicated stuff. And the bump map gives you control of the lighting of the character, as you can see. So it's a bit like normal map, because the bump map is another form of normal map. So that's why it controls the lighting of the body, and you can change where the lighting glows on the character. Very, very powerful settings these, and you can go ahead and change them to your heart's content. And if you're happy with that, then it's fine. And then you've got further settings here with the diffuse color. I would always make sure diffuse color was always white. If you remember in DAZ Studio, you had the base color. The base color is also a diffuse color, and that is the basic map that's created in all softwares. I would always make sure that's white. Never change it to a different color. Always make sure it's white, which is good to go. This base color here that's reflecting it isn't a base color, it's actually a texture map, and that's why it's got the texture map icon there. So that's actually the texture map for the base color. So that's basically what it is. And just like in DAZ Studio, where I said you've got to control the texture maps to control everything, similar kind of thing in iClone as well. You've got to character creator and iClone. You've got to go and control the actual texture map to change the settings. So if you want to see what the texture looks like, you can go into Image Texture, and obviously need to make sure that Photoshop is installed and you've specified where the editor is installed. This is a first time setting, so you've got to specify where Photoshop is installed or whatever program you're using. I'm just using Photoshop. I'm just going to make sure Photoshop is selected and Photoshop EXE. And once you do that, it will launch into Photoshop for you. See? This is a one-time setting. You don't do it all the time. It's a one-time setting. And once it loads up, you will see the texture map inside of Photoshop itself. See if you know what you're doing. But this is to add more detail basically onto the character. Say if you're happy with iClone and you want to add on some extra detail, you can go ahead and you can do anything to your heart's content, so including changing the colour of the skin as well. You can do it from here. Although I would say that Character Creator 3's got a good selection of character control in terms of the colour skin tones. But you can still, if you're not happy with something, you can go back into here and you can say, I don't like the colour, I'm going to choose that instead. Then you can just change that and save it literally, and it will overwrite the current setting. And if you go back into here, you can see it's automatically changed for you. Very responsive Character Creator. That's one of the things I like about iClone, Character Creator, and the Reallusion products. That's very, very reactive. So once you change a setting, it instantly changes whatever you've changed very quickly without having to do anything else. So if you change it in here again, so the hue saturation, if I change it to maybe more green colour to make it polarized, sorry. If I make it look more alien-like, more green maybe, and then I say I like the colour a lot, I can even do that, and Character Creator again, and there we go. That looks very nice. It looks like an alien character going on there. So we've created some very quick and easy changes there. I want to undo it in Photoshop, just Control-Z and Control-Z, save it, and get it back to the texture map it was before, and there you go, and you can instantly see the power you're getting here from Character Creator. It's very, very powerful. You can just quickly tweak something in Photoshop and change something instantly, without having to do anything else. Very powerful. And that's just one of the powers of Photoshop and, Character Creator in general, and iClone. It allows you to make very, very quick tweaks, not having to worry about having to do anything complicated. Unlike in DAZ Studio, you have to save it across, overwrite settings, find where the files was. There's none of that messing around in iClone. iClone's very streamlined. It just finds the settings for you, and updates on the go for you. Very, very nice. Okay, so let's carry on now with iClone. As you can see, we're getting some very good results already. So if I just go into the different parts of the body, so that just says body. Right, so this is the actual body itself now. So if I just go into just color, remember the setting I did, -20. I want everything to look exactly the same. So I'm going to go into -20 here. And again, as you can see now, the body has changed now to that color. If I just undo that, it's Control-Z in iClone, and you can see the color is back now, and you can see that white color is returned, that creamy color. So if I just put that back to -20, and there we go. Now it's mingled in with that other colour there we have, and it looks more to its natural colour skin now for the body. So that's looking rather good now. So we've done that, and obviously if you're not happy with that and you want to make further tweaks, you can control the contrast to make it match more, and there we go. That's really good now. And if you close out of that, and again, with everything else in Character Creator and iClone, and anything else used for this matter, you can right click on it and you can click on you can right click on it and click into Launch Texture, and back into Photoshop we are. And then we can go into Adjustments and Hue and Saturation, and say we don't like the colour very much, we can change it to the colour, for example, if you like it better. And you can save it, and then you're in here, you can see that's got a more pinky colour now. So if I just undo that and then save it again, it'll return back to what it was. There you go. Very quick and very, very responsive. And you can do that with every part of the body, so you can keep going with this. You can do arm. Again, if you right click on the base colour, I'm just doing the base colour for these examples, by the way, because it's complicated enough just looking at that. So if I just do -20 for that, and there we go, we've got the colour of the skin now coming into the base colour of that as well. And if you change the contrast slightly, you'll get a more better, even better. There we go, the character's now looking really consistent in every single way. And if you close it down, and say if you're still not happy with the character, obviously you can go ahead and launch the texture in Photoshop, and again you can change the colour as well from here. I'm not going to show you that because I showed you everything else so far, so it's the same as it was before, the body and the head, no changes there. And again for the leg, you can do the same for the leg as well, so just make sure leg is selected, and then go into the adjust colour setting, and then make sure your brightness is again -20, and again contrast, I don't know what the setting was exactly, sorry, bring it to 0. Contrast, just a slight change, I don't know what the number was, but something like that. There we go, that's the leg though. Okay, so as you can see, we can go about this and we can change all the settings as we want. I'm not going to show you every single setting because it's exactly the same. All you're doing is you're going into base colour, right clicking on just colour, and it's literally the same for the eyes and everything else. So again, you stick on just colour, you do it from here, around, just around. It's okay. What we should be messing around with is the cornea side. Very important to make sure you select cornea. So that's the right one. If you right click on it, just the colour, and now as you can see, we're getting the impact on the eye colour on this right hand side. Okay, and we can change the hue of that, and we can also change the saturation to make it look very unique. So we can do a lot of settings here, and obviously you can do the same for the left eye as well. So you can go into the, make sure you always go into the cornea for the eye still, and then just go into just colour, and now you can do brightness and the saturation, and you can make it really, really unique there, as you can see. It's a very unusual character there. Anyway, so that's the eyes. So you don't deal with the eye directly, you deal with the cornea instead. Just remember that. You can't change the colour of that. I think it's called the eye. There's a cornea, there's the iris. I can't seem to access that setting on here at the moment. Looks like you can't really change the setting from the eye any further than that from here. It doesn't let you do anything other than the cornea on here, unfortunately. But yes, you can change the cornea. You can't change the outer eye though, or anything like that from here, unfortunately. Okay, so that's that. Right, so that's the eyes, and then we have the teeth. Then we have the clothing itself. So if I just go into the clothing, if we just go into the shirt, for example, we've got the base colour here, so we can adjust it. So if we just go into right click on it again, just colour, and again, just like with anything else in Character Creator, you can just change the brightness of it, and you can see the colour is adapting. Contrast gives you a bit more of a, and hue and saturation gives you different colour, obviously, so you can go for green. So there we've got a nice green colour there. Very quickly going on in Character Creator. And say if you're happy with that, then you're absolutely fine. And you can obviously also change the texture in, obviously in Photoshop if you want to add extra detail or whatever, like buttons or whatever. And you're really good designing stuff in Photoshop and textures and materials. You can add on extra materials, you can add on extra shaping, extra patterns to your heart's content, and that will all be saving into iClone and Character Creator for you. So that's really, really good. And again, just quickly show you. Let's change the color of that. And there we go. Changing the color of your icon as well. Undo that, save it, and there we go. It's very quick and very, very responsive. And again, same for the genes. Everything is customizable in Character Creator. It really is very powerful. Then you can go into the hue, say you like that color. There we go. We've got matching screen pens going. Right, so that's all done. And that's Character Creator and clothing done. So I've showed you how to deal with the skin color by applying it to the head. The head and the face, body, the arms, the legs, and everything else. And then I've showed you how to apply that onto clothing. So you can do it from clothing from here. The only reason I could do the clothing from here is because I had selected the actor. If you don't select the actor, by the way, it's like whichever part of it you go into, it's still selected. So if you select any part of the human, you can access both the clothing and the actual skin textures. But if you just select clothing, you can only select the clothing textures. And that's how it works. Yes, that's exactly how it works. So if you go into any part of it, I like to select the actor, set always everything, and then that shows you a list of everything here, including the clothing as well. So yep, I've showed you how to access that. If you just want to filter the clothing out, just select the clothing here, and from the cloth icon here, and then just go into the editor, and you can just manipulate the clothing just by itself and nothing else, then much more quicker. Okay, there's no need to do that, so you can do it all from the actor itself as well. Right, so that's the manipulation of the textures and the materials, which is actually quite a big thing inside of iClone. Because in that way you can save settings out and do all sorts with it. I'm going to quickly run you through the other settings though. So very quickly on here, you can also go into the on here. So this is the Morphs tab. This is what I'm going to show you now. This is all about the character and manipulating settings about the actual character itself. So if you select the actor, you always get all the settings to do with the actor. If you select these settings, you get very filtered results and you can find things more quicker. So say for example, you want to change the character's eyes, right? iClone is quite good at doing this actually, unlike in Dance Studio where you have to do a lot of filtering to find what you're looking for. All you do here is look for the eyes, and literally that's what you do. Now you can see there's two different settings for the eyes, one's for the head and one's for headshots. Now, we've not got a headshot character here, but it looks like it's still letting us manipulate the eyes. So let's just see what happens if I change it. Even though we don't have a headshot character, we can still manipulate the eyes as if they've been used by a headshot character. That's actually quite neat. And if you go into eye here, it's pretty impressive. You can change the height, you can see. So I'm just dealing with the general face settings here in the head. That's where it's found. You just basically manipulate it to where it's most likely going to be. You can also go into the body, and all these settings can be accessed manually. You just basically find where the part of the body is you want to change. In this case, it's the eye. So I just select the eye and just do it from there. Simple as that. Right, you can change the width. And this is all the morphs, by the way. It's like in Dance Studio and morphs. So does Character Creator as well. And I think Character Creator's morphs are actually better. They give a lot more power to the user. So very, very cool stuff. You can change the angle of the eye. And you can keep going with these settings. You can really deform the character a lot using these settings. Anyway, I'm going to very quickly look at the settings. So then you've got the ear. And again, the ear. Now, something that wasn't so good in Dance Studio, you can actually change the size of the ear very quickly in this. See the effect of that? Very quick. Then you can change even further. So that's even really smaller ears. And then you can change the height of the ears as well, so you can make it go down. Very impressive. You can angle it as well, so you can give it a nice tilt to make it more like a creature if you wanted to. And yeah, you can keep going with these settings until you're happy. There's a lot of stuff you can do here, so I'm not going to do every single setting. Then you've got the cheeks as well. So the cheeks, that's just how it happens here. As you can see, the cheekbones is changing. Very cool. You can go higher and lower with the height. And you can follow it to make it more, for example. So yeah, then you've got the nose. And again, the nose, you can make it bigger, smaller, however you wish. Change the width of it as well. And you can change something when you do in DAZ Studio, the height of it, so you can determine exactly where it is on the body as well. And the depth of it. And you can also change the ridge of the nose. You can change the curve of that ridge. You can change the height of that tip. And so many more settings you can do with the nose. Okay? Then you've got the mouth. And again with the mouth, there's a load of settings. You've got the scale, for example. Like that. You've got the width. Right? Then you've got the height. Then you've got the depth. Gosh, it's terrible now. Right? Then you've got the width of the actual that part of the body. The lip, sorry, and the mouth, sorry, and then so you can do that with that. Then you've got the lip, and you can see some other extreme settings there going on. Then you've got the teeth. Now you can't see the teeth. You can now. Yep. Yeah. So that's the teeth. And then you've got the lower scale. Yep. We don't want them coming out there, coming out their mouth, obviously. Right. So then you've got the height. Yep. Put it back to 0. And obviously each of these settings you can just left click and drag along, or you can just specify numbers if you wanted to, just like in DAZ Studio, to sort out the settings as well. So let's keep going down. It's the teeth, the jaw. So now the jaw, again, you can adjust the scale to make it look like that. It's very powerful, as you can see. Then you've got the chin. Again, extremely powerful. Then you've got the neck. Wow. See that? Very, very powerful. And you can even change the length as well. It's very impressive. Okay, so that's basically that. And you can further tweak it with the headshot settings. Now, I'm not entirely sure why these settings are available for when it's not a headshot character, but it gives even more control over the head, as you can see. It gives you control over the skull. Really is a lot of settings here you can do. You can go crazy with this until you're absolutely satisfied with it. And once you are, then that's the morphs completed. The morphs are actually much more easier to explain in Character Creator. In DAZ Studio they're a bit complicated because they're all over the place in terms of the settings and everything. In Character Creator, very nicely, all the settings are in one place, and they're actually very easy to find as well. So you can just literally go through these icons here and you can easily find what you want very, very quickly. And you can manipulate things at the blink of an eye without having to think about what you're doing with. Very easy there. I like the way the Character Creator done that. It's very nice and user-friendly. But say if you're struggling to find something, and you're not able to find something for whatever reason that may be, you can easily type as well. It's like you could do in DAZ Studio. So you can type in I, and it will filter all the eye settings for you. So again, if you're struggling, you could do it like that as well. So, there's multiple ways of doing this. Just by searching here on the search box, you've got control over what you want to actually get out of it as well. So just like DAZ Studio, you've got the setting there to filter it further as well. So yeah, that's it for the morphing. The morphing is actually quite easy in this. Just control the settings on this, left click on the part of the body you want to select, and then just click on the dials with the left click and right click mouse button, or just adjust the numbers from here, and that's pretty much it for the morphs. So I've showed you the morphs, I've showed you the textures and the materials of the actual parts of the body and the clothing. I've showed you the appearance editor where you control the texture quality of the skin and the outfits and the clothing, and making sure you've got 4K textures for all of that. Well, actually outfits I didn't show you because the computer crashed. Let me show you that now then. So outfits, we just go into the jeans, just go into this, activate appearance editor, and again it's the same kind of thing, like with the skin and the clothing. You just basically manipulate the base color and the map. Sorry, once it loads up, well not the map. Sorry, the maps won't show up on this. It'll just be the actual texture bar design. This is just the appearance editor. Sorry, I got it. See, this is the appearance editor. So just all the textures, and that's 2K quality now. So once you're happy with that, again, you just go into unload. Make sure you unload it because otherwise settings will not save. And once you do that, save the settings onto the item of clothing for you. And that's the clothing done in the appearance tab as well for you. So I've showed you the skin, the makeup, and the outfits now. And that's basically the main settings in iClone. So you're looking at the appearance tab, you're looking at the materials tab, and you're looking at the morphs tab. If you can familiarize yourself with them three, you can go a long way with creating characters. And then here we've got the this is the motion tab, the motion pose tab. Not really use it too much. And this is the attribute tab. Now, this is quite useful actually. So say for example we've got some clothing here. Got to select something like clothing to do this though. So that's the jeans. Right now, what you can do with this, the attributes tab, is say if you've got an item of clothing and it doesn't quite conform to the character properly, it's something not right about it. There's several tricks you can do inside a character creator to help you to get the clothing in place for yourself. Now the first thing you want to do is you want to check that the character has the correct skin weight. So for example, the clothing, you've got jeans on, you want to make sure that all your clothing is properly skin weighted, not in that, transfer skin weights. You want to make sure that all of them are properly set up. Now default is good enough for most items of clothing. Okay, which would include things like jeans, shirts, they will all be okay with the default setting. When you've got dresses, make sure you click dress. When you've got shoes, make sure you click shoes, and cloaks, again, click on cloaks. And this basically, you've got to basically map it onto the settings. I'm just going to go on default here and click on apply. Just apply the right setting for the clothing based on the floor presets. Default is good enough for most clothing, apart from the complicated ones like dresses and gloves and cloaks and stuff like that. Okay? Now say for example, that's how to do this, transfer the skin weight. Say for example, if we had a dress, for example, have we got the dress on here? Yes, we do actually have a dress here. So if I just get rid of the jeans, I'm just thinking character first. So I'm going to get rid of the jeans and rid of the shirts. I'm going to put one of these dresses on like this one here. There we go. And I'm just going to make sure, yep, that's properly on. Right, so it's going to go into here, and although it looks like it's fine, you may want to further tweak it by going to transfer skin weights. Now default really isn't that good for dresses. The dress should always be set up as a dress, so click on apply, just to make sure it's properly set up for you. Give you any issues when you go later along the line. And yeah, and that's pretty much it. You just want to make sure the settings there set up for the correct skin weight. I don't really do this too much, but say if there's something wrong with the clothing, you can edit the mesh and you can sort it out. But I'll show you that maybe later on if you get a chance. If not, then maybe not. You can also convert to accessory. Now this is quite useful. This say for example you've got something that should be an accessory, right? So I don't really have an accessory on this list to show you, but say for example you want to make this dress into an accessory. Now I'm just going to zoom out just in case it causes any issues here. Right, so what I want to do then, it's not really what you do, but it's a quick example of what would happen if you did that. So if you click it to convert into accessory, you'd always go into reset the default shape and then convert, right? So it still looks like clothing now at the moment, yeah? But as you can see, something's happened here, right? The legs come in through the dress, right? Now the reason that's happened is because now that's an accessory. It's lost its identity, it doesn't know what it is anymore. So according to that, that no longer is a dress, it's actually an accessory. An accessory is like jewellery basically, or necklaces or something, things like that. But the neat thing about an accessory that you don't get control over with a clothing is you can actually transform it. And so once you've got the actual accessory here, what you can do with it is you select the accessory first, the dress, right? You go back into here, okay? You will see you've got transform options here now. Now with these options, you can scale it, for example, so you can make it bigger. As you can see, you're filtering out the gaps there, but negatively because you're actually making the dress bigger. You're not really what to be doing. But say if you make it 200, for example, and you can see the impact of that straight away. You've made it look ridiculous now on the character. So let's make it back to 200. But that's basically the power of an accessory. You can actually transform it. Something you can't do otherwise. But I'm not saying you want to do that with your clothing, but I'm just saying if you want to have further control over your clothing or any of your items, you can conform it into an accessory, and then you can go back and conform it back into a clothing. And the way of doing that is if you say you make that a bit bigger, for example, right? You just click here on the modification tab and then click transfer skin weight, and then again go for most likely what setting is, which is the dress. And once that's done, that will then make back into clothing for you. So whenever you click on transfer skin weights, that is a neat shortcut to make whatever item you made into an accessory back into a clothing. And that's something I've learned in iClone. Very useful trick. Because once you do that, it's now clothing again. And there we go. It's back in the cloth section, as you can see in this back dress. And now if you go back into here, you've lost the ability of transforming it, as you can see. Okay? But now that is now back into a clothing, which means now that would not be so much poking through, but obviously it would take the settings of what it was before, so there is still some odd artifacts going on there. But yeah, it's your dress, and now that is a proper clothing now, again. Which it should be, but that just quickly shows you how you can very quickly change between an accessory and clothing and vice versa. So you can keep doing that, and you can change it back into an accessory if you wanted to as well, and change something and then change it back into clothing. And that's a neat trick in Character Creator, something you may want to consider actually. That's just some of the things I've learned from the basic Character Creator itself and the settings and the way it works. Now, something very important that I'll show you later on is weight maps. I won't show you that just yet, but that's the one you're using on Unreal Engine. I'm going to skip that for now though. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to just, we're going to basically use, I think now, done a lot of things of course, so moving on. So what I've got to do then is obviously put in the character through headshots, which is a tool I use to get in characters into iClone. Right, so what I want you to do now is observe the quality that's been outputted from this, because it's going much higher than in Dev Studio. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the same picture I use in Dev Studio. If you watched the other video on Dev Studio, you'll know exactly which picture that is. I'm going to put that in just a moment. Right, it was this character, if you remember. Make sure you click on female. I'm going to go into clean and rough on this occasion, and it's not a baby, so generate. Right, and that's literally all you do in headshots. And once it creates it, put it onto the screen for you. Right. She's not come with clothing, so I'm going to put that on very quickly. No, just put on just a moment now. I think she needs some hair in a moment, but that's just look at the quality of that character now. Right? Okay, it's not 100%. You can see the wrinkles of the face have come out really well. And yeah, it just looks much better than it did in Dev Studio. You can see more features that actually come off on the character quite well. Let's just put on some hair now, just to look just like with hair. Now, I'm not going to install any particular hairstyles at the moment on here, so I'm just going to very quickly just choose what's on offer here. Right, there we have it. There's our character. Now, obviously, she looks quite similar when she did in that studio, but it's much higher quality because you've got the wrinkles actually properly showing on her face now, and it is much more. Obviously, it's nothing like that person yet. This particular character has not come out the best in iClone either. But some characters do come out really, really well inside of iClone. Let me just see what we can do to further improve this. So I just go into activate sculpt morph. Right, what we can do here is we can say we want to kind of match the kind of shape towards. I'm just going to say contour, for example. Or the face, maybe. I'll go into that one for now. I'm going to activate image matching. This gives you much better control. Right, so opacity. We want to make sure I'm not sure what setting it should be, but let's just go for 10 for now. Okay. Make sure that's clean and rough. Make sure. Right. Sure these settings are set up. Right. It's already set to a 4K quality character. Yes. And yeah, that's all incorrect to me. So once you're happy with them settings, all you do is you see update skin texture. Let's just see what that does now. You can see now she looks different slightly, doesn't she? Not quite there yet though. Just go back and see. Right. And I'm going to go into here onto reproject photo now. So what that will do is it will remake that in the settings I've just picked. See if it does a better job. Right. Let's just see what's done now. Okay. Let's just change the colour of the skin. Well, no, it's done not bad, to be honest with you. Right, so let me just have a look at the eyes itself then. Let's go to the eyes. Let's try and, I'm not very good at doing this, by the way, so I might completely mess it up. Me and trying to match up characters doesn't quite work out very well. So I'll just try my best and see what I can do here. That shot has its own eye settings as well. The nose looks actually there. The lips just look maybe a bit too big. So let's have a look what we can do with that. It's a bit more dark. It's not so maybe, but it's also more. Just leave that as it is for now, though. You can see the detail is coming there. Probably if I had better hair, probably see it more coming up there. That is showing already is quite high quality. Okay. If you look at it from further away, it almost looks deceivingly close to what the character actually looks like. You can only really tell when you zoom in further. It's not the best match. From further away, so it's actually quite impressive. Right, so now let's look at the other settings inside of this in terms of the actual setting up of the actual skin gen goes. Now we've looked at skin gen for the skin, but for the other features though, to do that, I'll have to go into my packages here and install some packages. So just bear with me a few moments. Just install. Right, I'm going to install this first. Shot Morph, Realistic Human Skin. I want to install that. I also want to install Ultimate Morphs. Okay, so it's still doing it. It's installing Realistic Human Skin. And there we go. Installation finished. Right, so that's all of them 3 things done. Just wait for it to update. Tools inside of Character Creator installed now. Yep, so that's some of the main things I'll be using here to finish up with. So let's just have a look now what we have. This is the smart contents, the smart gallery, and this is where all your products save. Say where all the downloaded products are that you've actually bought on the actual Reallusion website. They all end up on this list here. I'm not sure how to access Realistic Human Skin, but you can just double click into this. And it will show you all the settings from here. So from here then, we've got some interesting options now. Let's click on Actor here. You can have things like baby skin, right? So say we want to have baby skin on our face, which obviously we don't on this occasion, but say if we did, we literally click on that, click apply, and there we go. Instant change. Now she looks a lot more like a baby. Right, let me just undo that. Because we don't want it looking like that, of course. Right, so just bear with me. So I've crashed again, so what I'm going to do is just open a picture. That file. Anyway, that's just our reference image. Let's see if we've lost something in. Right, so that's what we're trying to aim to get at. And going left was the direction now. So, that's quite a massive increase. So, right, so that looks very old now. We don't want it. If you wanted to them. We could even give them tattoos and stuff like that. So you can see that's who that was on their back now. Right, so let's just put the glue back on by clicking on Activate Editor. Whenever you make a change like a tattoo or something, it will temporarily remove the glue so it can do them. So there. As you can see, the tattoo is still visible anyway, so but that's just what the skin gen does. Basically goes into its skin view. So that's yes, just something to be aware of. Right, so just going with this now. So that's some of the reasons why it was crashing was because there's a few settings on the computer. That's the recorder I'm using was in high task, so I set it to lower task performance rates, and then I just fiddle around with some of my graphic settings just to see and do this a bit better. It keeps crashing every time I try to show something on these settings here. Right, so say if I click on this one here, I don't want to show too much skin gen stuff though, but that's one thing with tattoo. And you can change the skins to reptile skin. I'm just trying to look for something that would be up here for us though. face decals here, so if you want to add in things like wrinkles and stuff like that, you can easily be able to do that as well on here. So we can just, if we pick one of these, it might actually automatically change it for us anyway. It's a preset for the face. Let's see what happens. I'm just going to click on place here. Didn't seem to like that setting very much. Try to do that again. Click on add one. Not exactly. Never actually merged in the layers before. I'm not sure exactly what that means. 1, 2, 3, 6, 10. Oh, it looks like we're using 15 different things here. Yeah, I'm just going to get rid of the tattoo. I'm going to get rid of the age freckle. Not that. I'm going to get rid of the aged wrinkle. Let me just see what happens now. Much skin gen stuff going on there, so I got rid of one of them similar features. Right, so at least I got rid of that horrible age issue we had before. As you can see, that's again changed the look of the character just by changing the actual preset from here. So okay. Add. Right, so at least it's not smooth the lips anymore now. That's a bit better. So if I just the editor. There's a lot of things you can do in SkinGen. I'm not going to show you features, but if you play around in them settings, you can do a lot of things with the skin and lips and all sorts of stuff. Just going on character onto the face itself now. Onto the head. You can change the actual base color of the skin. Again, just to make it match what it should be. There we go, that's put it back now to a much better setting. Now let's have a quick. That doesn't look too bad. Obviously it's not quite there yet, but yes, we're definitely getting some of them features in there now. It's not too bad. It's definitely getting there. So as you can see, the more tweaks we can do, the more alterations we can make to make it more like we want it to be like. Right, so that's that. Okay, I guess that's something consistent with the body. Let's just change that. Okay, and just change the contrast. Let's change that to what it should be. Right. So that's looking more better. Yeah, that looks more even again now. I think it's just something to do with the dress there. Let's put on some clothing just to confirm if it's the dress or not. Content is where you find files that are have been downloaded from the actual things you've installed, softwares, bundles that you have. Let's going to see what kind of clothing I have here now. Content packs. So if I just go back into pants, still got the selection there. I'm just going to put on the jeans and put on the shirt. I'm just going to get dressed then. Right. Right, let's ignore that. That's the other part of the clothing it's giving the colour. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is that's absolutely fine. Obviously it's not quite there yet. We would need to keep working on settings more. So scar. Right, and there we go. Yep, so we've got the scar now on the head. We can do all sorts of tweaks with that, wrinkles, sorts of other things. So we've got freckles, yeah? Freckles, age spot, freckle. Here we are. So we can add freckles onto a face now, and there we are. That's the impact of that. So that's basically how you do it. You just go through the SkinGen settings and see really what you like. That's how you can further manipulate it. And then we can have a nose. Not really see much of one. Just move some of these. Right, so what's gone there? If I just put in a nose freckle, there we go. You can see that's had an impact there. It's very subtle, but you can definitely see it's there. Okay, and then acne, for example. Not very clear, but you can see there is a few acne spots there. So yes, you can see the effects that this SkinGen is having now. And you can keep going with these settings. So your heart's content, really, acne spots. Right, so say that you're happy with the character now and you've changed it like you want to and given it that you possibly would like to give it. Right, so when you put on the morphs and everything else to the character, then what you can do then is you can export this character out. Right, so as we've already seen, we can morph this character as well. We've tried to match it towards the picture and everything. Obviously not very well on this occasion, but obviously once you get the character in from headshots, you can obviously just go into these settings as I've already showed you, and you can manipulate each part of the character that you want to. So that could even be extended to the hands. Right, there we go. And then you can chest, and there's a lot of things you can do with your character. Right, so that's just the morphing on the actual character. Once you've put it in, you can change any of these settings to match how you want the character to be looking. And again, the eyes. Again, you can choose the eye scale, just like before, to further tweak it. And again, that's the morphs inside of character creator. So now I'm not trying to match the character at all. I'm just trying to very quickly show you again some of the tweaks you can do just by using the morphs. So it's exactly the same. And again, no difference to the normal character that's generated from character creator itself. And so that's basically it in essence. That's how you get in characters, into the actual software itself. You use headshots. But of course, that is not the only way of getting characters inside of Character Creator. There is final one way of doing it, and of course, I've already showed you this method in using DAZ Studio. But what I'm going to show you now very quickly is how to get DAZ Studio characters inside of here with clothing, and then how we can deal with that inside of Character Creator 3, and then finish up with that on this video. So let's very quickly do that for you now then. So let me just go into DAZ Studio. Right, so first thing I want to obviously make sure it's in the solid bounding box. I'm going to put in a Daz Studio character, and I'm going to put some clothing on. Right, so spare me a few moments. Just for the generator state female character there, we're just going to put some basic clothing and hair on her. So let's just go into wardrobe. It's going to pick something that we can put to her. Something that we maybe want to use into icon. Well, so let's see if we like that dress, for example. You can just put that dress straight on. Okay, yep, and then let's put some hair on. Right, again, some hair that's kind of nice, and that will do. Right, again, just plonk it on, and then make sure the character is did all that. Brilliant. What we need to do now is, as long as we're doing before, everything is attached to the generated state female character, which is the hair and the clothing, which in this case it is, all parented. All we need to do is click on File, and this time we choose Export. And what we do is I'm going to save it quickly. I'm going to call it Test. Make sure it is a FBX file, very important this for character creator. FBX file, and then save it. And keep this pretty much as it is. If we have animations, you can take animations. If you've got base poses, you can do that. We don't have any of them features in there, so just figures, and just keep everything else default. And then make sure, very quickly, that on the figure set, the hair is set to export, yes, and all the character, yes, and then the dress also, all the parts of the dress as well, yes. And if that's all good, you can click on Accept. Okay, and then just wait for it to complete. That's all done now, so you can just minimize this and go back into Character Creator, and all we do here now is we look for the Transformer tool. So when you're in Character Creator 3, head over onto the top right here and go into Transformer, and then click on CC3. And then look for where we're saving that FBX file, test.fbx, and that's our Daz Studio character, and click Open. This window will appear, just let it do its stuff, and then this screen will appear. Now this says Basic, load FBX embedded texture files, Advanced, automatically detect and load all Daz texture files. So this operation can load all the Daz Studio texture files as well, and it will take a bit longer. Now, as you know, the Daz Studio textures aren't very good anyway, but it's up to yourself. You can go for basic or you can go for advanced. Whichever option you go for, I think for clothing it won't really matter, so I'll just go for basic. Okay, now this screen appears. Now this screen should all show green passes. If it shows a red fail, that means that something's not quite right. Okay, so what we want to do now is make sure that everything is assigned correctly. So this is the dress, it's the sleeve, so that can remain as a accessory, I think. Yep. The hair, the high fantasy dress needs to be clothing, or cloth is the best starting for it, yes. And then the collar also needs to be cloth, and then the hair needs to be hair, so just make sure them settings are correctly configured. And yes, that's all that pretty much done. I'll actually need the cloth as well just to be safe, right? So yes, and then skin templates, you can change that to, that's quite nice. So for the high fantasy dress, you can change that to dress. Okay. And then there's not many other settings there, really. Okay, so keep that all default, keep that as hair and hair. And then on the, here, on the maximum size of the actual quality, make sure we set it all to 4K. So 4096, 4096, it saves you having to do that later on. And all you need to do then is click OK, literally. So this will apply now everything from Daz Studio that we had straight into Character Creator for us with the clothing and everything we done, sorry. Right, and there we have it. There's our Daz Studio character straight into Character Creator, no issues at all. Dress and everything else is here. Now, can you see the slight issue on the dress here? That's because of the skin weighting, most likely. So what we need to do is we need to select the dress. We need to go into this tab here, then we need to go into transfer skin weights and make sure that is a dress and click on apply. Close. Okay, it's still like that, but at least it's now configured to the correct skin weight. What we would most likely have to do with that dress is maybe further configuration. I'll show you that actually in a moment maybe. Right, so that's that. So that's the sleeves, that's all inputted in. Okay, let me just see, just to make sure they are actually using the 4K texture. So if I just go into here, and then I go into this, let's make it a bit more wider. It's the actual dress, okay. Alright, okay, let's select the we need to tick these boxes first, like. Alright, so what's wrong here? Oh, I think it's because of the... Okay, so it needs to be set up. So we need to make sure we set it to something. Just to PBR ones. PBR version 1.7 material. It's because it doesn't have any material at the moment. That's one of the reasons why it's not let us do that. Right, and as you can see now, the moment we did that, we can now go into Activate here in the editor. Right, and it'll flatten the images, textures on it. Okay, don't worry too much about that. Okay, so now that's done, and you can see each part of the dress has been selected. All we want to do is we want to make sure that everything is the highest quality it can possibly be. In this case, 2K. So again, make sure the output size is all 2K quality. Carrying on then. Fine. Right, so once it's all 2K quality, which is the highest for the clothing, then you can successfully unload Appearance Editor. So, it doesn't want to let me unload for some weird reason. That's basically to just click on unload, and that would get rid of it for you again. And then once you have, you can see kind of textures. You can see the dress is still showing that bit of a fragment there. Bottom, which is not looking so. We can try and do with this. Now, this isn't exact art, but we can try and go into here. Remember when we were talking about editing mesh? There's also got the conform option. You could do this, you could just increase its size. It doesn't always work, and as you can see, negative effects, so that doesn't always work. If it doesn't work for you, you may need to go into here and click on Edit Mesh. This is a bit complicated, so it's not always advised to do this. But if you do go into that, sometimes you can play around with this and you can see where the holes are appearing. Can you see that hole there and line there and that line there? Basically, we want to try and get rid of them lines somehow. So let's just see what we can do here. Right, so that's what we need. We need sculpt really. Then we just left click over it. Try to anyway. Let's see what happens. Now, it doesn't always work this. It's very much trial and error this. Right, let's go for the selection now. Just bear with me. There we are. So if you do lose that selection, you just click on it button there. Right, so that's the opposite of what we do. Can you see we are doing something, but it is messing up with parts of the dress? Okay, that's what we can do. Going to smooth. Okay. Right. If this area here, it is doing it. It's just it's a bit tricky because you have to see which setting is right really for the clothing. So I wouldn't really suggest doing this too much. This is only needed to be done if clothing doesn't quite conform before you. This is one of the additional options to try and make it better match what it should actually be. It's obviously far from perfect because it tries to emulate clothing the best it possibly can. It's far from perfect though. Yeah, and that's not too bad. We've got rid of the holes in the dress, I think now. So if we just go to this, that's not too bad at all. Okay, so all we're left there was just with some creases. That's actually a pretty good job we've done there. Quite impressed with that. Obviously, you can do much better if you spend more time on it. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not patched up quite okay. So yes, so that's editing the mesh. That's a complex feature that you can do inside of Character Creator, and then you need to go into the Sculpt tool, and then make sure you click on this left, this arrow here, and then select the part you want to sculpt, and then you use these options here, push, and then pull, and smooth, and then show mesh brush, and that's basically what you do. And you change these settings here for intensity and radius. I just kept everything to default. You can increase it to give a bigger effect of what you want to do. And that's the edit the mesh settings. So that's a complex feature. That's as I said, conform you can do here. If you want to increase the size of it now, you can do that as you've seen by changing the size like that. But it's obviously not what we want to do on this occasion. So yes, you can do that. I wouldn't really mess around with these settings too much because it can slow down the computer and cause issues later on along the line. But yes, that's two things you can do there, conform and edit mesh. You can do that with any kind of clothing, and you can do it if it's not quite fitting onto the actual character itself properly. So yeah, I've showed you how to transfer the skin weight as well, and I've also showed you how to convert it to an accessory body as well. So that's all the main settings here really for the clothing and everything done. All you really need to do now is save this clothing out and make it compatible with Character Creator. And the way we do that is we just select the clothing, make sure it's selected there, which it is, and then you just basically go into File, Export, Selected Content, make sure you've selected the clothing properly, and there we have it. So let me just make sure. Right, so that's the dress, not the colour. Right, I don't think we can select all three of them together. It's the dress at the moment. File, Export. I just go into Selected Content. I think it's because it's still stored in the variable there. Okay, let me just try and go down. There's our character again. Let's just save it straight away as the clothing we're going to use. So let's just do that. So let's just go into the hair, not the hair, so with the dress. This time it should work because it's not loaded anymore. It glitched somehow on the settings. Let me just try that again now. Hang on a second, what's it doing? No. Fantasy dress, file, export, selected content, and there we go. It says iClone cloth file. That's what we need. I'm going to say onto the desktop just for this test here, and it saves it as an iCloth file. Just bear that in mind. Make sure you save out all the files for the dress, so not just that one, the other two as well for the sleeves and the collar. Otherwise, they won't come across. So make sure you select them all separately and save them all separately as well. It's important. And once you've done that and you're saving all the different components of that clothing, then you can go ahead and put that clothing onto any character you want. The thing I forgot to mention to you is to turn this character into a CC3 Plus character now, because this isn't fully compatible for use in Character Creator yet. The way of doing that is you go into this tab here, Attributes, and then on here you'll see a new option. You'll see Convert CC3 to CC3 Plus, and you can also convert it to a game base from here as well. Right, now we want to show you this option first, so Convert CC3 to CC3 Plus. I'll show you this later on when we look at Unreal Engine. For now, let's go for this one. Convert CC3 to CC3 Plus, and keep going to high quality. Make sure everything is highest as it can be. Convert base will only override the body skin weight, some mesh. Yep, that's okay. Click OK to that. Basically what it's trying to say is some of the clothing might mess up, but let's not worry about it too much at the moment. Let's just see what we get out of it when it produces the output. So it'll change the character into a CC3 Plus character, and it will try to morph the clothing to kind of fit it the best it can. It may not be a perfect fitting though. We'll see what happens once it finishes with the conversion. Right, so now that is saving as a CC3 Plus character. The clothing has not messed up too much, so it's pretty much stayed the same, apart from a few tears, as you can see at the back of the sleeves. So we can go ahead and sort it out just before we pop it onto our character. So let's just go into Edit Mesh and see what we can do here. So it's quite visible holes appearing there. What I'm going to do is put on Sculpt again, put it back on. So yep, that's the going to put it on once. Smooth. Okay, that's actually fixed it now. Yeah, so it's just all about experimenting and seeing really gives you the output that you need for clothing. I said you will always get defects that aren't right, and you will have to go ahead and try and fix it yourself. Other than that, that clothing doesn't look too bad. It looks quite no, it looks quite well done actually. Right, so that's about that. This is just about getting the final tweaks done now, and then we're all finished. Everything's good to go.